What is today? February 26th in the United States, and I guess February 27th in Japan. So what is tomorrow? February 28th in Japan. February 28th is an important date. Tomorrow in Japan is the 5th anniversary of the Mt. Gox bankruptcy. And so we're here to talk about Gox Rising. We're here to talk about Mt. Gox and all that has happened. And I'm here to answer some questions. If you have questions, please send a text, and they will hopefully get here. But I'm going to start by covering some of the most frequently asked questions that people have brought up over the last coming weeks. And the first of which is, what is Gox Rising? Well, what is Gox Rising? I've been active in the cryptocurrency space for some time. I got my start in virtual currencies, digital currencies, back in 1999. I've been at this some time, originally with video games, and making markets for currencies like World of Warcraft Gold and Linden Dollars in Second Life and EverQuest Platinum and the likes all over the world. What was Mt. Gox? It was the Magic the Gathering online exchange, and it pivoted into Bitcoin in 2010, and it became the most important Bitcoin exchange. It became the most important Bitcoin business in the entire world. It had a meteoric rise and a colossal fall. And so I looked at buying the company in late 2012 and throughout 2013. I made multiple attempts to buy the business. The first time using my old video game company. The second time to launch a joint venture for China, or MountGox.cn. And eventually when Mt. Gox collapsed in early 2014, I made another attempt to buy the business at this point simply to help out Bitcoin. What's been good for Bitcoin historically has been good for me. And so my first reaction to the collapse of Mt. Gox was to put out the fire. You know, when the trade centers went down, you know, what do? You go try and save people, you try and extinguish fires, you do whatever you can to help because something bad has happened. And that was my first reaction when Mt. Gox collapsed in 2014. Was to figure out how to lend a hand, how to be helpful, how to make a difference. My view when Mt. Gox collapsed is that this event was going to set the industry back a year or two, and I think that was probably about spot on. It was responsible for the bear markets of 2014 and 2015. Some would even argue it's been somewhat responsible for the bear markets that we've been in since 2018 into now. And so fast forward through these 5 years of bankruptcy, Gox Rising is my 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever number attempt it is, at still trying to provide a happy ending to what has been a very bad story. You know, how did most people hear about Bitcoin the first time? They heard about Bitcoin in the context of Mt. Gox collapsing. Not the sort of first impression you want to make on people. And I have this sort of crazy idea that what is currently one of our biggest weaknesses as an industry, I believe we can turn that weakness into a strength. And so Gox Rising is an effort to do that, and it's got a few different focuses. So what are those goals? Well, first and foremost, as you go out, if you're a creditor or anyone else trying to understand what's going on at Mt. Gox and what's been happening with the bankruptcy, where do you go to find out what is going on? You know, you go to Reddit, you go into great Telegram groups like Mt. Gox Legal, and you go to their sites and whatnot, but it's actually quite difficult. You can spend hours trying to figure out what is going on with Mt. Gox and what's going on with the bankruptcy, and you're going to find inconsistencies as you go from source to source to source. And so one of the things that we would like to do, or one of the things we hope to do, is to be a source of information for creditors or anyone else that wants to know what's going on. We're trying to help people figure out what's up. And so we want to support that. We also want to help support creditors in the recovery process. There were 103,000 accounts at Mt. Gox when it collapsed that had a balance. And there's been about 24,000 claims filed with the bankruptcy trustee. And we'd like to see those victims, the at least 24,000 victims, get the best outcome possible. And that starts with getting all of the cash and coins that are there. There's about $630 million of Bitcoin that had been sold, or the equivalent in Japanese yen, held by the Mt. Gox estate. We'd like to see all of that go to the creditors. and there's still about 140, 150,000 Bitcoin when you look at all the forks. And we'd like to see all of that go to the creditors without any more of those coins sold. And so we want to see 100 cents on the dollar of what is held by the estate end up in the hands of creditors. We're not the ones that are going to be responsible for that. This is just one of the things we'd like to see happen. And to the extent, we can continue to make those statements, and to the extent that that's helpful in achieving that goal, all the better. We want to continue to make that statement because we think it should be stated. We also believe that there is an opportunity to pursue the missing coins. There's still about 650,000 missing coins, and we think that there's still more to be had. And we'd like to see those recovered in some way, again, for the benefit of creditors. We directly want to put in a bid for the intangible assets, specifically the domains and the brand, because we would like to relaunch the exchange. And we would like creditors to own part of that exchange. So that's our, call it, goals at Gox Rising. And if you have any other questions, again, feel free to ask now. I will get to the questions that are asked now towards the end of the interview once I've gotten through the questions that have already been asked. So one of the things people have asked is, so why are you doing this? How are you going to make money? Again, what's good for Bitcoin is good for me. I have an interest in over 100 companies in the space. Rising tides raise all ships. If this is a good thing for Bitcoin, it benefits me. But that's not the only way that I potentially benefit, or the people at Gox Rising. We want to put in that bid. We hope to buy the intangible assets, and we hope to relaunch the exchange. Meaning, if the exchange is successful at some point down the road, meaning we succeed in our bid to buy the intangibles, we succeed in launching the exchange, and that exchange is successful, we stand to benefit. And that is only after doing lots and lots and lots and lots of work. We also don't want to be the only beneficiaries of that success, if successful. We intend to offer part of that to all the creditors. Those are the ways in which we make money, or I make money. What's good for Bitcoin is good for me. And if the exchange is successful down the road, I potentially benefit. How are we not going to make money? We are not seeking a share of the cash or coins held by the Mt. Gox estate. We want nothing. We want creditors to receive 100 cents on the dollar of those funds. We want everything to go to the creditors. We also do not want anything from any recovery effort. If any more coins are found, if anything else is recovered by whatever means, we don't want any of that. We'd like to see a foundation, and this is, please engage us, be part of the conversation. We'd like to see a foundation established by the creditors, for the creditors, to go and try and recover any of those missing funds and collect in whatever ways possible. We don't want to have a voice in that. We don't want to be on the board of that. We don't want to have a say in that. We want creditors to do that, and we want to support creditors in that activity. We think that that's a good idea. We'd like to see a foundation established. And please let us know if you would like to be involved in some way, or how we can be of service, how we can help. Again, that foundation should be entirely led by creditors. We just think it's a good idea. We don't want to run it, don't want to have a say in it, just want to support it, because we think that there's still a recovery to be had. In the case of the Bernie Madoff case, most people don't know this data, but 70% of the losses were recovered by the prosecutors. So I guess the bigger question, and the one that is often asked, is why revive it? Mt. Gox is this, it's a bane of our existence. Every time someone mentions I have a visceral reaction when I hear the words Mt. Gox. Why revive it? I don't ever want to hear the name again. And that's probably the most frequently asked question. And it's a good question. And this is probably where most of the conversation should be centered. I have a track record of seeing opportunity where others do not. I believe there is an opportunity to relaunch the exchange. Let's start with the big why. One is, this is our Lehman Brothers. This is our Bear Stearns. This is the equivalent of our Enron. This is our black eye. This is that embarrassing thing that when we talk about our industry, Mt. Gox is the thing that makes people cringe. But it doesn't have to be that way. This story is not over. We have the power as an industry to write the end of this story. And how do we want it to end? Do we want it to end as Mt. Gox being a term that we're all embarrassed by? Or would we like, when we hear the word Mount Gox, to be able to say, yeah, we did something different. We aren't the old financial system. Our story didn't end like Lehman Brothers. Our stories ended differently. I like to imagine a story where when people bring up Mount Gox, we can say, yeah, creditors got all of their money back, and be able to say that with pride, and to be proud of our industry, and to be able to point out how different we actually are than the old financial system. I'd like to see a great outcome for creditors, first and foremost, the best outcome possible. And I'm prepared to work very, very hard to make that happen. I'd also like the exchange to be live again. I'd like to be able to point out that we didn't go under. Our community came together and did something very different than how the traditional financial system operated, during the financial collapse of 2008 and 9. I think that we can write a different ending of that story. And I think that's a great, I would, for one, would like to be able to tell that story. But you still need to have a compelling set of data to support, this. It's not just, we can want anything, right? But why do I think it's a viable idea? Once you get back past the sort of existential why, I'd like to take our weakness and make it a strength. But there's also some interesting data as to why I think this is feasible. The last time I did a poll, 96% of the people that had heard of Bitcoin had heard of Mt. Gox. That number's probably somewhere between 70 and 80% today. I have not done a recent poll. But Mt. Gox is almost synonymous with Bitcoin. There's also 1 million account holders, 103,000 accounts at the time of Mt. Gox collapsing, 24,000 creditors. And if we can succeed in making creditors whole, or at least creating the optimal outcome in the short term, that hopefully creates a fair amount of goodwill. Hopefully, this is also a good story that people buy into, and I want to thank everybody that's reached out. There are so many people in the Bitcoin industry, as well as many creditors, that have reached out and think this is a great idea. I imagine some of you are potential users of this exchange, subject to details as to what that exchange is, relative to the rest of the market. Obviously, it would have to be, best in class. And if you're going to relaunch the Mt. Gox exchange, you would have to relaunch it in a way where what happened previously could never happen again. And what happened at Mt. Gox is not an isolated incident. This isn't like something that just happened once. This is a problem that continues to plague our industry like a broken record. Through 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, how many exchanges have failed? How many exchanges have been hacked? So far in 2019, we had Cryptobia, Quadriga. This problem continues to be a problem. So if you were going to bring this exchange back online, you would have to be able to do so in a way where that this can never happen again. So I think that there's a tremendous amount of goodwill to be had here. I think the brand recognition is there, even though it's currently a negative brand. But I believe that can be turned around. And I know a lot of people are likely to disagree. But I'm good at finding diamonds in the rough. And I think that this is one of those. So another question that's come up frequently is, do we plan to submit a CR, or a civil rehabilitation plan, to the courts? The answer is no, because we don't think at this time it's necessary. As of right now, we think the bankruptcy trustee is doing a very good job of collecting information from creditors and all the important constituents, and we are feeling confident that the bankruptcy trustee is going to put together an appropriate CR plan that does not require us doing anything other than communicating what we're telling you now, the things that we think are important, which is that creditors should get everything that's there, 100 cents on the dollar. And we obviously would like to submit a bid to buy the intangible assets. So at this time, we have no plans to file a CR plan with the courts. I know that's been a point of contention, so I'm going to say it one last time. We have no plan to file a CR plan with the courts. So what is a CR plan? What is CR? What is civil rehabilitation? The trustee submits a plan for civil rehabilitation to the court. Creditors and creditor groups get to submit their ideas regarding what they think should be included in that plan. And the trustee decides which of these ideas should be included and then submits that plan. We think that this is going well as of right now, and for that reason, again, we don't see any need to rock the boat, and therefore we will not. The trustee then releases that plan to the creditors for a vote. The submission deadline, as of right now, is April 26th, 2019. Creditors will then vote on that plan, and if that plan wins a majority of the vote, the plan is submitted to the court by the trustee. And hopefully this all happens on time without any further delays. We would like to see this story, at least creditors being repaid, victims being repaid, as soon as possible. Our only submission that we intend to make, as of right now, is a bid for the intangible assets. And again, that's specifically the brand and domain and anything else necessary to relaunch the exchange. I guess what are some important dates, things that everybody should know? The official submission deadline for creditors to file with the trustee has officially passed, though if you have not filed, you should still do so. It does not mean that your filing won't be approved, and so do that as quickly as possible if you have not. Very important. The submission deadline for the trustee's statements of approval or disapproval of claimants, that's March 15th. Again, if you have not filed, file now, file now, file now. And there's a bunch of people that had filed previously that didn't file this time. You need to refile. You need to file as part of the Civil Rehabilitation Plan. If you have not, do so immediately. And if you need any help, we're here to try and be a resource. Please reach out to us. We're here to help you. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. We're here to support you. There's going to be a creditors meeting in Japan on March 20th. So if you're in Japan, show up to that. And certainly, if you're paying attention, tune in after that. I'm sure there'll be news that is pertinent or important. And the trustee then will present that CR plan to the creditors for voting on April 26th. That's another important date. Mark it in your calendar. Do not forget. And we're going to start doing a regular webinar like this. We also have a Telegram group. The new website should be live. Hopefully it does a better job of answering your questions. There's an entire FAQ section that hopefully is even more comprehensive than what I've been here. And so please keep checking the website. And there's lots of other great groups out here. There's a lot of people that have spent a lot of time trying to support this process. You're not alone. There's a lot of people trying to make sure the right thing happens. And so thank you for listening to this piece. Now I'm going to take in some questions that have been submitted. How do you create a new exchange that can't be hacked? The site mentions a decentralized exchange. What is that? Well, there's two things that every exchange today should be doing. Number one, at a minimum, every exchange should be using multi-sig. At a minimum. This way there's not a single point of failure. There's not one person that can be hacked, one person that disappears, and the money goes away. At a minimum, every exchange should be using multi-sig. And if they're not using multi-sig, you should get your money out of there as fast as possible and never use it again. And as customers, it's important you know these things. Do your diligence. Do your diligence. Do your diligence. And so that's a minimum bar. But now we have decentralized exchanges. So one of the things that exchanges should be doing, at least as it relates to the crypto, is they should be non-custodial exchanges. They should be using blockchain as a way of mitigating that risk. I shouldn't be holding, exchanges shouldn't be holding your crypto anymore. They should be held by the blockchain and smart contracts. So that's, one of the things that can be done. Obviously, if it's an exchange with fiat on and off ramps, the fiat still is centralized. There's no way around that other than by using stable coins. But decentralized exchanges, in short, are the right thing. And the goal there is non-custodial exchanges. The exchange should not be in possession of your crypto. The exchange should not be in a position that they can lose your crypto. Pretty simple. What else do we have? How do we sign up? There should be a spot on the website. There should be a link on the site. Where specifically?
There's a join link.
There's a join link. So on the website, you'll see a join button. Click on that and participate. And we're going to keep upgrading the site. And please bear with us. We're doing our best. We're working around the clock to try and answer all your questions and trying to be helpful to the best of our abilities. We want to see the creditors get everything that is there. We'd like to see creditors go after what's missing. And we would like to give you ownership in a new exchange, which is everything that's there plus.
All right, great. I don't see any more questions, so.
Well, I think this has been a short webinar. We hope to do this every week going forward. If not, it'll be near that. We hope to do this as often as needed. And if you have any questions, join our Telegram group. Come to the website. We are here to support you however I can. Gox Rising.